What is private label selling? Find out the basics along with what it takes to run a successful private label business in my interview with e-commerce entrepreneur Paul Nichols. Hello, I'm Joseph Cox and this is E-commerce Joe. In today's episode, I'm speaking with Paul Nichols, who is a private label seller, and we're going to be exploring the real world of private label selling. If you're a private label seller and you're looking to learn about private label, then this is the episode for you. Paul gives us a fascinating look on the inner workings of his business. He shares some tips and tricks about how you can become a better business owner. This is quite a long interview, but we cover a lot. There are a lot of things that we'll speak about that you won't hear on the typical YouTube channel about e-commerce. For example, Paul talks to us about how he made a loss, and quite a large one, in his first year of business. That's not something that people usually talk about, so make sure you stay tuned. I really enjoyed speaking with Paul and I really learned a lot about private label selling. I hope you do too. Enjoy the interview. Okay, well, thank you very much for joining me, Paul. In today's episode, we are talking about private label selling. And Paul, rather than send a load of rattle on and say a load of stuff that might sound false, would you like to introduce yourself for anybody listening?
Yeah, sure. My name's Paul Nichols. Originally come from Scotland, currently live in London. And I've been selling on Amazon for almost 2 years exactly to the day, the 12th of September 2018. So been selling the baby niche, and at the moment only selling Amazon.com in the US.
I didn't realise it was coming up to 2 years. It's like the birthday. Are you doing anything to celebrate?
No, I'm not getting any plans, but yeah, it was the 12th of September in 2018, so it seems much, much longer ago than just 2 years, to be honest.
So in this episode, we're talking about private label selling. So most people, if all things go to plan, won't necessarily know what that is. So how would you describe private label selling and what makes it unique to any different or other business models?
Yeah, so my understanding of what private label means, I guess in the traditional sense, it would be taking an off-the-shelf product from somewhere, typically China, sticking a brand or a logo on it, and then reselling that as your product. That's what I think the traditional sense of it is. I personally don't think, well, I know for a fact that's not effective any longer, and you've really got to differentiate the products if you want to be successful. So often it's taking off-the-shelf products, but improving them, looking at where competitors are maybe failing, where customers are complaining about certain things, and looking to improve the product before sticking the label on it and building the brand around it.
And so for the benefit of anybody who doesn't quite know, what is an off-the-shelf product?
So off-the-shelf product for me is a product that already exists. So you would go to a manufacturer in China, say, and they've already got this version of the product that they're happy to sell to anyone, really. And in the past, like probably going back 5-6 years before I was involved in Amazon, people were doing that, sticking a label on it and making an absolute killing. Nowadays, it's a lot more competitive and a lot tougher, so you've got to really differentiate if you want to stand out.
That was, so me and my friends, I think I told you in the past, we started in like 2012, 2013. And it was very easy back then to just get any old product, stick a label on it and get it listed.
The glory years.
Yeah, the golden era. I give up. It got difficult. What would you say the benefits are of running a private label business versus, I suppose, a more traditional e-commerce business? Or do you even see there now as being any sort of different?
Yeah, I'm not sure I see much difference, to be honest now, but the things that I love about it is that you can do it from anywhere, obviously. You can work from home or literally anywhere that's got a good Wi-Fi connection. I think there's, as much as it is harder than back in 2012 or 2013, there's still massive opportunity. like my own personal situation when I started 2 years ago, my goal was always to be able to quit my day job.
Yeah.
And as much as I didn't like the job or consider it, I wouldn't say I had a successful career because I didn't enjoy it. It was well paid, and in that short space of time, I've managed to quit the job, and our current business is earning significantly more than my kind of well-paid job in the City of London. So there's massive opportunity, and we can go into that in a bit more detail. Obviously, it takes money to get started, but if you I've kind of stepped away from a lot of the Amazon specific Facebook groups, because if you go in there, you'll think like the sky's fallen, it's dead, there's no opportunity. But the people that are doing this and doing it successfully are not in Facebook groups complaining or moaning about it. There is real opportunity there.
Yeah, I think that's interesting what you say there, because we've seen at the accountancy so many people doing incredibly well. And it does seem to just keep growing. Like, I think a business that's successful just keeps going. And we have a lot of people that get in touch to start new businesses that fail quite quickly and then just disappear. Like they'll be around for 6 to 9 months, and then that's it. They kind of give up and moan and vanish.
Yeah. And that's the interesting thing, like with all of this, and it's not easy by any means. You've got to put effort into it, and you've got to like invest in your Amazon education, if you like. But the opportunity's there, you know. If people, none of the component parts are difficult. It's just making sure you do them all and kind of showing up day after day, and accept that maybe your first product will be a failure. But as long as you keep going, like the people that do that are all successful, like without exception, you know.
Yeah. Well, save that thought on failures. Well, I've got a few questions on that in a bit. Okay. Starting at the beginning, you said that you quit your job. So what was it that you did before, and what made you actually want to quit and start this private label journey?
Yeah. So I worked in banking. I've done kind of project management type roles for various banks in London, and like I wouldn't complain about it because it was well paid and I was lucky to have it, but I was never fulfilled by it. You know, I'd done it for the money. That was pretty much it. And like there was kind of one kind of aha moment, I guess, and it's probably going back maybe like 4 years now. Our eldest daughter was in nursery at the time, and I think it was like a Christmas nativity show type thing. And because I obviously worked and had a boss, I had to go and ask the boss for permission to go and watch my daughter in the nativity show.
Yeah.
And I don't know, there was just something, that was a moment that I look back to where I was just like, no way, I'm not doing this anymore. You know, like a grown man asking another grown man's permission. It's just, I don't know, it was a light bulb moment, definitely.
Yeah.
So from there, I was just like, I want to be kind of in control, or work when I want to work and where I want to work. And so that was always the thing that kind of drove me on those first kind of couple of years, I guess.
And so you wanted to be your own boss. Did you consider any other things before Amazon private label?
Yeah, I think if I'm being honest, it's probably the last maybe 10 years I've been thinking and looking for different things. Like I dabbled a little bit in property and trying to like flip a property and make money, but pretty much broke even. Just all the things that I guess people look at that are interested in side gigs, you know, like trading shares and stuff, but never really got anywhere with it.
Did you flip the house while you were still working, or did you quit your job to do that?
No, while I was still working. And yeah, it's, unless you've got skills, which I don't have, but like I'm hopeless at DIY, so I was paying people to do it. So by the time you've kind of paid everyone, estate agents, lawyers, and it's a difficult thing to do, you know, and you need kind of deep pockets to get started with it.
Yeah, completely.
So there's definitely a few things I tried, but nothing really worked out. But yeah, luckily the Amazon thing, because the other things I was looking at was where you can't think of the right term now, but where you can maybe sell a specific service and you're maybe like the face of it. But I wasn't comfortable like being on camera and talking and teaching to people.
Okay, yeah.
But definitely like with the Amazon thing, I was like, do you know what? This is it, because it's it's pretty straightforward. You don't need to be that smart. You just need to have discipline, structure, like, you know, day after day, keep chipping away. And yeah, it definitely just clicked for me.
And how long did it take? Sorry, did you started it while you were still working?
Oh yeah, I started it. Yeah, so it was like a year, probably a year and a bit before I managed to quit the day job, which to be honest is pretty quick. It's not normal to be able to do it as quick as that, and we can get into the reasons why. But yeah, I was working for about 14, 15 months at the same time.
Does that mean you only quit 6 months or a year ago then?
Yeah, quite in November. Yeah, just November just gone.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah, no, thank you.
I always thought this was a full-time thing for you.
Yeah, no, it only was from then. That was always the biggest goal, you know. It was it was brilliant milestone for me to hit.
Did your boss ask what you were going to do?
I think they probably had an inkling, because I would like disappear off into meeting rooms with my laptop, my personal laptop. Like on my lunch hour, I would be like sitting at a laptop. But, I think I did actually say in the end. Actually, I did say that I was going to do that.
Going off to sell children's products.
Yeah, exactly.
A friend of mine who's also a client, they told me that where they worked, their IT team put a block on Seller Central. They realized that someone was spending like an abnormal amount of time on that website.
Oh, really?
And they blocked it. Yeah. And then when that happened, they actually then were like, oh, I should just quit because now I can't do like they were spending a ridiculous amount of time doing it.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. What I did realize when I quit, how much I was actually doing, like in parallel with the day job, because I would be doing it on the train, lunch hour, any kind of free slots I got, and I kind of expected quitting, I'd have all this free time, but yeah, it made me realize how much I was doing, like on the side, really.
Yeah. Probably jumping ahead here, but I'm going to ask it while it's kind of natural. When you then took the plunge and moved into doing it full time, did you notice a big difference in, I suppose, in the business? Did it suddenly kind of scale up quite a lot, or is it that you've just been working fewer hours?
I think it did. It was November, so you always get like the Christmas bump anyway. Although it's not as significant in our category, we're kind of tends to be quite consistent year round. But I don't know if I can honestly say that it made a material difference to the business at that time. But what really did give us a massive boost was COVID, which is obviously a terrible situation. But for the vast majority of e-commerce sellers, there's been a massive jump as a result of that. And one of our products in particular became far more in demand as a result of COVID. So yeah, that's definitely been a game changer for us.
Yeah, I think I won't ask you what the product is, so that I think I know what it is. I've seen them, but I won't get you to publicly say it. But a lot of our clients, especially in specific niches like home and fitness and toys and games, have seen huge, like their sales have been in May were like higher than they were in November, December last year, which was just crazy. It almost got to the point that people couldn't get stuff from China quick enough, like they were selling out.
Yeah, same, because you obviously make projections based on what you think you're going to sell. You don't want to overstock because it's costing you money or it's tying money up. But yeah, we had the exact same. It was running out of stock. I think on that specific product and on a couple of our products, we were out of stock April, May, June, and even July for like up to 10 or 15 days in each of those months. It's just a crazy time.
How painful was that, seeing all the...
Yeah, I've not done the calculation to work out how much money we left on the table.
Yeah, don't do it.
Yeah, it was significant. Well, the other thing with Amazon is like running out of stock is probably the single worst thing you can do, because not only do you lose the sales, which is painful enough, but you lose your Amazon ranking. So instead of showing up in position 2, maybe you start showing up in position 10 when you come back into stock. And it takes time and often money to build back up to that level. So yeah, that's definitely probably the biggest tip that someone gave me, is to, like, at all costs, try and keep your products in stock.
It's a good tip, but it's an expensive one, I think, to
Mm.
but we'll go on to that in a moment. So going back to the actual, I suppose, getting started element, how easy is it to start a private label business? I mean, where does someone even begin if they want to do it?
Yeah, and I think for me, I guess what I done was I paid for training courses.
Mm.
You don't necessarily need to do that, but I think the issue you've got is that everyone's trying to sell the Amazon dream now. There's probably hundreds of Amazon training courses.
Yeah.
And there's very few of them that I think are actual genuine sellers that are kind of keeping up to date on the latest trends and actually know what they're talking about.
Mm.
So you kind of, if you go for someone on YouTube, say, for example, you might get the right advice, but probably you're not going to get the right advice, or at least it's outdated advice, you know. I think you've got to pick that very carefully, but there's a whole host of training courses to choose from. I personally, I done ASM, Amazing Selling Machine, which I really liked. I mean, it is geared at complete beginners, which I was at that time. I literally didn't know anything about e-commerce or marketing, so it's very good to get you up and running. It is on the more expensive side for sure.
Yeah. You I think I told you before that I also did ASM,
mm-hmm.
and me and my business partners were in the second cohort of that kind of thing. Which batch were you?
I think it was ASM 8, maybe.
Which is crazy, isn't it? Because I remember doing number 2 and they released number 3, and I thought like, oh, it's going to be crazy. Like all the content's the same, I bet. All these people are going to be copying us. You know, it's saturated. And then you get to the number 8, you launch your business. It's still like, it's doing incredibly well. Have they? I don't know. I've not stayed up to date with it, but are they still releasing it every 6 months or a year?
Yeah, definitely regularly. I don't know how frequently at the moment, but they do. I know I've got to know the guys quite well that run that, and like they're sellers themselves. So and that's the thing with Amazon, it's kind of ever changing. So what was working a year ago is probably not going to be working today. So you need to keep it up to date, really.
Yeah.
So they're really good. But I mean, as a beginner's course, it's not going to probably get you to a 7-figure business, but it's going to get your first couple of products up and running and kind of de-risked as much as possible. I also done the Freedom Ticket, which was by a guy called Kevin King.
Okay.
And that was also really good. Also more aimed at beginners, but maybe a little bit more advanced as well than ASM. And they're actually now including that, I think, as part of the Helium 10 subscription, which is a software tool for Amazon sellers.
What was the difference between ASM and, was it Freedom?
The Freedom Ticket, it's called.
Freedom Ticket.
Like ASM is a lot more polished and professional, and it's just a lot easier to go through, and it was like better lighting and cameras and just all more professional all round. Whereas the Freedom Ticket, it was more just like kind of recorded, really basically done, but still good, still really good content. I think they might have kind of made it a bit more professional now. I think they re-recorded it all, but like both courses I would definitely recommend. And there's others out there that I'm sure are good, but I would just say to people, be very careful what you pick and who you listen to.
Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of snake oil salesmen out there that just catch people with like a Facebook ad and a snapshot of their Seller Central account. Like they show the sales figure and a picture of them with a Ferrari or something behind them. Like, you know, you forget that you've got that sales, you'll have like VAT or sales tax, Amazon's fees, the product, like all of these things.
Yeah, and this is what kind of frustrates me. In the kind of Amazon community, they all often talk about a 6-figure seller or a 7-figure seller. And like you say, sales is great, but there's a lot of people that are selling a lot on Amazon, but actually making very little money at the end of the day. No one really talks about the kind of bottom line profit.
Yeah.
But yeah, those courses, I don't get how anyone falls for that, like the guy with the Lamborghini and stuff. But yeah, some do, unfortunately.
They must work though, because otherwise they wouldn't be churning out the ads, because they'd just lose all their ad spend. It's crazy.
Yeah. yeah, there's a lot of people selling that dream, and I guess a lot of people kind of buying into it.
What was it about ASM that made you? Did you do the ASM first or Freedom Ticket first?
ASM first, yeah.
So what was it about that made it stand out? And this is kind of turning into a plug for ASM now. That wasn't that was on the internet.
I'm trying to think back.
No, sorry, go on.
I was going to say I've done quite a lot of research, and it's the industry leading one. You know, it's the most popular one by some way, and it's the most expensive one as a result. So I don't know. I think I just took a leap, and one of the things, and I don't know what the price of it is now, but it's still expensive. And one thing I did find, because I was spending, and it was thousands of dollars, it made me more focused in a way. Do you know what I mean? Because I was like, well, I've spent all that money. I'm definitely going to go through and do this.
Yeah.
And I think they offer like certain guarantees if you've not done something by like week 6 or whatever, you get a refund or something like that. So it was kind of like, well, I'm going to get my head down and really dive into this to make sure I kind of make it worth the investment.
Yeah, I remember my business partner was the one who paid for it originally, and he spent I think it was like $3,000. And I remember him telling me, we're in the gym, and he was just like, oh, I've just spent $3,000 on an online course. And I was like, what? Like, are you insane? And I said to him, why? Like, it just seems like someone's robbing you. But then when he explained the concept of it all, yeah, it made sense. And I was like, all right, I'll get involved in that. So talking to the concept, what is the overall kind of process for private label?
Yeah, so obviously it's like the education bit first of all, so the course, or whether you want to go into YouTube or whatever. It's then like product research, trying to find a product to sell, and like every course will give you a criteria on how you should identify product opportunities. There's then like finding the product, liaising with suppliers, getting quotes, checking the numbers to see if it works. For me, then a really important thing is differentiating the product, as I said at the start, because what we don't want to do is just release the same product as everyone else, because then it just becomes a race to the bottom on price. And then, yes, it's placing the order, manufacturing, getting the shipment inspected, shipping to Amazon. And I guess in parallel to that, it's identifying what keywords we want to go after. So when we say keywords, like for example, keyboard and mouse set would be something that someone would type in Amazon. And if you had a keyboard and mouse set, you would want to be one of the first 3, 5, 10 positions there, ideally. So it's identifying what keywords that you want to be ranked for and targets. You might have keyboard and mouse set, keyboard with mouse, keyboard and mouse combo, that type of thing. And then it's building the listing, the Amazon listing, so making sure you're really selling the benefits of the product, having quality images, photography, ideally a product video. And then this is done in parallel whilst the product's shipping. It then lands at Amazon, and we want to launch the product. We want to generate awareness that it's there, to try to get those first few sales, and then obviously reviews, which is super important and kind of the currency on Amazon, really. But the brilliant thing about it, yeah, that sounds like a lot. None of it, when you look at it individually, is difficult at all. And once you go through that process, get the product launched, ranked, with like a decent volume of reviews on there, it kind of takes care of itself. Then it's just a case of like replenishing the stock and keeping an eye on it. And then once you've kind of got that dialed in, it's product 2, and then it goes through the same life cycle, established 3, 4, and then it just kind of goes from there and kind of compounds and grows bigger and bigger if you're doing it right.
And so, I mean, I think you touched on it quite well there to say it's a lot. Like as you're listening out there, I'm like, wow, yeah, I forget just how much stuff that comes into it. And going back to those guys with their Lamborghinis, they'll be telling you it's easy. How long does it take you, or did it take you for the first product, I suppose? How long did that process take? So sourcing it, finding the product, choosing it, and getting it to Amazon.
I think we placed our first order at the end of June. and then we launched on the 12th of September. So it's at July, August. Yeah, so probably about 3 months from the point of placing it, maybe 2.5 months from placing the order to start and selling.
And what about the research to get to that point now?
Researching, to be honest, I kind of made a decision quite quickly on it. I think it was probably about 3 weeks all in, because I wanted to actually get the samples in my hand and check them out and stuff. I think this is one of the reasons that a lot of people do fail on Amazon, is that they kind of go down the rabbit hole of product research, and there's so much data and things to look at that they never make a decision, and they never launch a product. I've read stats like 80% of people never launch a product for that reason, or something crazy like that.
Paralysis by analysis.
Yeah, that's it, exactly. Yeah. And it's easy to get caught out with that, but the view I took, and what I would really recommend people do, is that, yes, do the proper research, like follow the guidance on the course and stuff, but just make a decision, like set a deadline in like 1 week's time or 2 weeks' time. I'm going to make a decision on a product either way. Because the thing with this is, even if you launch the product and it doesn't work, and this is what I really like about the model, say it doesn't go the way you want and it doesn't really get the traction, there's almost no scenario where you're going to lose all the money you invested, because what you're going to do is you're going to have to discount the price, and it will sell at a certain price. So you then recoup not all your money, but probably the majority of your money in like a worst case scenario situation. So yeah, that's what I would say to people, is like, just make the decision, go with the product. Even if it fails, you're going to get probably all your money back, but certainly the majority of it. But you'll have went through the process and learned so much from going through the process that product 2 has got a much higher likelihood of success.
The first product that you launched, is it still selling now?
Yeah, it is. We were quite lucky, because that's, again, not that common. I took the view, and I still have the same view, like differentiating the product, make it different. In that example, it was basically 2 separate products that were selling well individually, and we bundled them together into a set and started selling the set, and luckily it took off. And like in true Amazon fashion, though, within about, I think, 3 months, we had something like 11 people selling the exact same thing as us.
It's ridiculous, isn't it?
Yeah.
I've got so many stories of that, like even down to like the photography, like you take a photo, like one of the things we sold was like a vegetable peeler, and you'd position it diagonally, and that was it. Then every single vegetable peeler after that, once ours was up there, was positioned in the same way. And then with a corkscrew, we added with our bottle opener, we added a wine stopper at the top, like literally, like you said, they're like bundling it. And now if you go on Amazon, almost every single bottle opener has that little complimentary thing. Yeah. And you're just like, why? Oh, fine, like kind of copy, but why don't they then add, I don't know, a wine aerator or something extra? They just copy it. And
it's lazy, isn't it? It's just a lazy way of operating. But it is common, and unfortunately it's more common at lower price point products like our first product was, and this is why I much prefer selling more expensive products now. But yeah, so going back to that, it still sells to this day, and I think because we were first to market and we had a strategy for obtaining reviews and getting reviews quickly, if you can do that, if you can innovate with a product, get those reviews on board quickly, have a dialed in process or an evergreen process for getting those reviews, obviously a legitimate way of doing it, and we can talk about some of the dodgier tactics, but having a legitimate way of establishing reviews. Yes, people are going to come in and steal some of your share, but you can always stay ahead of the pack. And in the example of that product, that, like I say, we had 11 copycat sellers, we still to this day have like 60% of the sales for that product. Wow. Because we were first, and because we've got the reviews, and because we've got the quality images and the video and stuff, and it's much more trusted than a lot of the kind of lazy copycat ones,
Yeah. Is it rank 1, page 1 for any of its keywords, or is it?
Yeah, no, certainly for the main keyword, we're still in position 1. but yeah, it's ranked for several keywords, and yeah, that does really quite well for us. But I guess, yeah, it's not common. Like most people, their first product either fails because they're going through a learning process, or maybe it'll work for a bit and then fall away. I think we've been quite fortunate in that sense.
Mm-hmm. Do you remember your very first sale?
Do you know what? I've got such a bad memory. I don't really. Yeah, no, I can't remember. I do remember those early days though, and I still do it today, to be honest. But like checking the app and like refreshing it, and then a sale comes through, and it's like, oh wow. I remember, I had that little thing on the app for a while where it made that noise every time.
Yeah.
But it got to the point that we were selling so many, it was actually annoying because it was going cha-ching all the time.
I think that's when you know you're a good seller, when you get annoyed by the noise. You're like, when you're looking at these products then, so you're looking for ways of differentiating, would you mind sharing the sort of things that you look for?
Yeah, definitely. And it's another thing that's absolutely fantastic about Amazon is the competitors, the customers of your competitor basically tell you what's wrong with it in the reviews. So we look at our competitors, I tend to look more at like the 3 and 4 star reviews, because those people are like, they're kind of objective. They quite like the product, but they're telling you what's not perfect with it. Whereas kind of 1 star reviews, it's just usually they hate it and they're not really saying anything that's particularly useful. So we look at like the 3 and 4 star reviews and just look for any themes. Like, are a lot of people complaining about a specific thing? And then it's speaking to the manufacturer to understand, well, how can we fix that problem? How much is it going to cost? How long is it going to take? And then just making a kind of balanced judgment on that, because you obviously don't want to waste 6 months developing or changing a product, because by that point the market could have moved on and it becomes very hard to compete. But yeah, it's as simple as that. Like, we just check those reviews, identify the improvements, and go from there.
Well, talking about the suppliers, one question that my friends always used to ask me and family as well, when we got started was, how do you know that the supplier isn't going to steal your money? Because usually the suppliers are in China, right? So you're paying this factory in China, several £1,000s or several $1,000 at least at a time. How did you have any sort of trepidation when you made that first order?
Yeah, I mean, a little bit for sure. I think the reality is though that most factories and most people are decent, and honest. And obviously there's dodgy ones out there, but I think our first supplier we found actually on Alibaba, and on that platform it's like kind of like Amazon. They're reviewed and they have different quality scores and stuff. And then they have something called trade assurance, which basically I think the money sits in a kind of escrow type account and it's only paid once you're happy with the goods. Or I can't remember the specifics, but it gives you a bit more reassurance and protection. But kind of quite quickly, I think we maybe used that for the first payment. And then we're just like, well, the way you want to structure it, and most suppliers will want 30% deposit and then 70% when the goods are ready to leave the factory. Like, we always do an independent inspection before the goods leave, even like 2 years later. And we obviously trust the suppliers, but mistakes happen. And because we ship directly to Amazon, if you ship in a batch of products that are faulty, then you're going to get killed with 1 star reviews. So we always do that inspection. And then you can negotiate that deposit payment down. So now we are like 20% deposit and then 80%, like almost when it arrives at Amazon or even after it started selling in some instances. But you're only really risking 20% of the money because you've got the independent inspectors coming in, making sure they've produced what they said they're going to produce. And you only release the money once your freight forwarder has it and then take it to the US. So yeah, I think the risk is quite minimal, and like 99.9% of factories, I'm sure, are honest, and like it's not really in their interest. They want to build the relationship because that's much more lucrative for them than stealing a few $1,000s.
Yeah, I think that's probably the key point there. Like, for them to rank on Alibaba on page 1 or wherever you find them, they've probably had to do as much work to get there as you're going to have to do with the product on Amazon. And yeah,
it wouldn't make sense then, to tarnish their reputation.
Exactly.
It's interesting. One of our suppliers recently was at a workshop thing, an Alibaba workshop thing in China, where they're teaching factories how to rank on Alibaba. So it's kind of the same.
Yeah, I imagine there would be some sort of like, I suppose, secret sauce that you have to do, or that you could do for them. It's cool to hear that they've also got courses on it. But yeah, a lot of clients, or sometimes like new clients, when they sign up, they say that like, oh, because I am an Amazon seller, like, what's to stop you stealing my ideas? Because we can see like your suppliers, we can see like the sales, and that's exactly the same thing. I say it's so against my interest to do that. And also I kind of say, well, don't you back yourself? Like for you, if I tried to copy your product, I know how much of like how successful you are. It's going to be really difficult. I wouldn't want to have to compete against you in business. And it's kind of like one of those things.
Yeah, that's a good point, Joe. Like there's loads of opportunities on Amazon products that you can launch and be successful. Like to copy somebody that's already kind of dominating in a niche is probably not the right approach, to be honest.
Yeah.
And also, like, we now, because we do differentiate every single product now, we get either design or utility patent on the products to give us that protection against people just coming in and trying to rip you off, really.
Do you find that they work? Like, does it stop people?
Yeah, certainly. Well, we've not had to use, because I guess not everything, certainly the first product we launched, we couldn't patent it. It wasn't something that was unique in any way, but everything that we've got a patent on, and we make it clear in the listing, on the Amazon listing, like patented, whatever, we've not had anyone so far trying to copy us.
That's good. We used to have a lot of issues with people. It's known as being like hijacking your listings. So we had products that we'd be selling, and then other people would say that they were selling our product and win the buy box essentially. But I think that's all stopped now with the brand registry stuff.
Yeah, I think it still goes on. There's more protection for sellers now with brand registry. But yeah, we've never really had that. I think it depends on the type of product, to be honest. If you're selling like a corkscrew or a bottle opener, it's kind of easy to probably jump on and say, oh yeah, this is the same product, and people wouldn't really know the difference. But if it's something a bit more complex, or if it's kind of more branded, then I think it's probably a bit more difficult for the hijackers.
When you got started, when you launched that first product, do you mind saying how much capital you kind of put into it?
Yeah, so our first order was $10,000, so it was pretty significant.
Yeah.
Quite a big risk looking back, if I'm being honest. I think I told the wife at the time it was 5,000. But yeah, just like as I said, I wanted to quit the day job. It was like I believed in it, and again, like I committed. It was pretty much. I think in terms of our total investment, our initial investment, it was kind of 25K in total. We've obviously subsequently had to borrow money to grow bigger, and we can talk about that, but it was quite a large pot we had, thankfully, to get started. But yeah, I wanted to go big on it.
Would you, do you think you could have done it for less, or do you think if you did it again, you would try and somehow get more?
Yeah, it's kind of a difficult one. It depends what your objectives are, you know. If the objective is to have enough money to go on a nice holiday once a year, then yeah, you probably could start with quite a bit less. But it depends what kind of income you're trying to replace. Obviously, the more money you have at the start, the more aggressive you can be and the quicker you can build. I think going back to like the 2012, 2013, and people started with like $1,000 and built a 7-figure business out of it. I think those days are gone, to be honest. And like, it's difficult to say, but I feel like 5 to 10K is probably like the minimum you'd want to start, in my opinion. And if you've not got that money at the moment, I would probably focus on learning about Amazon and saving to. It's all relative, but I think having a decent pot just makes things a whole lot easier for you.
No, I agree. And again, with the Lamborghini guys, I feel like they're not transparent enough with that. You do need to spend quite a lot sometimes to get something going. And let me know if I miss anything, but I'm pretty sure like some of the extra costs, I mean, you've got all the units that you've got to pay for effectively up front. When you launch something, you kind of almost need to back yourself and get a second order placed. At least that's what we had to do. We'd buy like 3,000 to 5,000 units, ship them in. We did it in the days where you could give a lot away for free. So we'd give a load away, and then you'd almost have to trust that you were going to start selling, place the second order. And it's so like capital intensive. But when you're competing against people who are, well, if you're trying to do it for like £500, you're just never going to be able to get started. Because like you said, if you're out of inventory, you drop straight to the bottom of the rankings.
I think that's exactly right. Yeah, you're almost placing the second order just as you start selling the first order. And Amazon pay you, I think, 2 or 3 weeks behind the sale. So, and then you're having to pay for the second inventory before you've even started to sell the first lot. I think the general rule of thumb, which I kind of agree with, is that you almost need 2.5 times the initial inventory order. So like in our example, 10K for our first inventory, you kind of need about 25 grand to cover the second inventory and any costs associated with launching, really.
This is quite substantial, really. So, talking of finances, most businesses make a loss in their first year. How did you do?
Yeah, so I think we were the same. I think we were like most businesses, unfortunately. But because as I've said a few times, like the goal was always to quit the day job. So I was really aggressively growing the business, and that we launched the first product in the September. I think we then done a colour variation, maybe November on that. And then January, we done like 4 products at once, which looking back was a bit naive because, we had enough money to do it, but it was like the time and managing the launches and stuff. And it probably wasn't the most effective. We still sell, I think out of those 5 products, we still sell 4 of them. So they did work, but it's... Sorry, I forgot what the question was.
You saying that you made a loss in the first year?
Oh, yeah, the loss, yeah. So as a result, because we were investing so heavily in our growth, then, first year, I think we made a loss of about 30K maybe. But from then, like, we've really reaped the benefits of that, and we're just in the process of finalising the year 2 accounts just now. But yes, it's really substantial.
Did your wife know that you lost that much money in the first year?
How? See, the thing, it's like she is really involved in the business. To be honest, she helps a lot with like the branding and marketing, and like I do the kind of day-to-day operational stuff. But so she is involved, but luckily, like not in the financial side of things so much.
You're obviously profitable now. You've quit your job and turned things around. 30 grand is a lot of money, especially for any normal people. How, at that point, was there ever a point there where you thought, I've made a mistake? Like, how did you know to keep going?
Yeah, I think as much as the year 1 was a loss, like probably like 6 months to a year we were starting to generate profits, and I could see it trending in the right direction. So when we looked at the whole year, yes, it was a loss, but like the second half of the first year, we were starting to make good profits, and it was just kind of on an upward trend, really. So I think it probably sounds worse when you see 30 grand loss, but like I knew very quickly we were going to become profitable after that. But I think that is an important point, that the Lamborghini guys that quit the day job and live on the beach and stuff, like until 2 weeks ago, which is crazy, we hadn't taken any money out of the business to live off of.
Oh, wow.
And that's not because we couldn't or because it was generating enough, but because I wanted to grow it really aggressively, I was just rolling all the money back in. But being honest, it was well into year 2 before we were in a position to take money out without really hurting the business from a cash flow perspective. So it's definitely not the get rich quick thing. It takes time, like a significant amount of money to grow usually. And you're not going to, I think I was very fortunate to be able to quit the job after 14, 15 months. Most people, it's like at least a year and a half to 2 years.
Mm. That's crazy. I think it was so easy when we started that I think, especially because I was a bit younger as well, like in my early 20s, to think, I mean, I didn't even have 30 grand to lose, let alone I'd made, would have been so painful.
I would love to have been around and selling back then, because there's definitely loads of plus points, obviously less competition, and it was a lot easier to get reviews, like giving products away in exchange for reviews and stuff. But I think at the same time, from what I understand, it was difficult as well because there was like a lot of dodgy stuff going on at the time and competitors attacking you. I think it's still not perfect, but they seem to have tightened a lot of that up now.
Oh, that's good to hear, because one of the reasons that I think I might have said this to you before, but one of the reasons I kind of got a bit sick of it was that it felt like so many people were doing like dirty tricks on us. And I don't know whether I'm just being paranoid or just too many things would be, too many coincidences were happening. And it'd be like, you have the enough reviews that you'd have like a full 5 stars as the image. And, your conversion rate's so high when you've got that. And it just felt like every time we got there, you'd get a batch of 1-star reviews that just didn't make sense, because using the vegetable peeler, like, it's a vegetable peeler. It peels vegetables. Like, what else does it it was sharp. It did the thing. And they'd just be like, oh, no, broke, came rubbish, terrible service, like, hate this, 1 star. And you're just like, all these people trying to destroy our business.
It definitely still goes on, and it's another reason why I like more expensive products, because for some reason it still happens, but it's not as common there. I think because there's that kind of barrier of entry, because you need a lot of money for the inventory.
Well, and I guess if you had to buy 10 units off of your competitor a month, and what sort of price point is your sort of product?
So our more expensive stuff is like $120, $180, and $160. I think we put 3 products in that way.
So your competitor would have to spend a couple of grand to compete, like, to do that, whereas ours were like £10 or $10. And it's so much cheaper to just kind of spam buy them and just ruin your reputation.
I think Amazon do need to do something about that, because the 1-star reviews weigh really heavily. You can have 25 stars and 1 star, and it really hurts you. It's a tricky one, but certainly at the more expensive price points, maybe for the reason you just outlined, it seems to be less commonplace.
Maybe the people that sell stuff for cheaper are just a bit more unscrupulous,
Possibly.
What are the sort of launch strategies now, if you're able to say? Like, ours is very much now against, I think, Amazon's terms of service. Like, we would get coupons, give them away for free. We wouldn't ask people for fake reviews, but we would give them to and ask them for a review separately. And I think most people, knowing that they got the product for free, were more likely to give a 5-star review. I mean, I say that our products were really good and we spent a lot of time actually getting them, so hopefully they were genuine. But the fact of giving someone, like, it was the sale using the coupon that kind of helped you rank on Amazon, because Amazon saw it as a real organic sale. I know they've stopped that now. Are there sort of strategies now that people can use to rank on Amazon?
I mean, there's lots out there. I think, like, the old strategy that you outlined there with the coupons, Amazon are kind of wise to that now, and they basically don't give as much kind of ranking juice to a sale that's got a discount or a coupon code attached to it. But I mean, the best way to rank in Amazon, it's really straightforward. Like, going back to the example of keyboard and mouse combo, you basically want someone to type in keyboard and mouse combo search for your product and then buy it. And if you get enough people doing that, Amazon will start to show you further and further up the page. And that's pretty much the game. So it's trying to get people that are going to buy the products at full price and search for them in that way. But then the other really important part is getting reviews, because if you go up the page and you're making the sales, you get to maybe position 3, but you've got 5 reviews. And if all your competitors around you have got 800 reviews, no one's going to pick you. So then you'll start to fall back down very quickly. So it's kind of getting people to buy it initially at full price, but then having a strategy of getting reviews on board quickly. You've got to come at it from 2 angles, really.
But how is it then that you can get people to buy it for full price if they can't find you? Like if you're buried away on page 10 or page 200?
Yeah. So, I mean, there's ways of doing it. Obviously, Amazon PPC, Amazon advertising, so you can pay to be at the top of the page. And if you've got a compelling enough price and a quality images and listing, people will buy you that way. There's services out there. We personally don't use them because I think it's a little bit risky, but there's services out there that have a whole load of people that are willing to buy the products. Like you give them the money, they buy it, and you give them a rebate or whatever.
Yeah, rebate. I think it's called Rebate Key, isn't it? One of them.
Rebate Key is one. And that, there's people involved in that are really respected, and Amazon are obviously aware of it and they've never shut it down. But I don't know, for me, it feels a bit risky, and Amazon's terms of service are all a bit vague and woolly on it, but like it is kind of manipulating ranking, whatever way you look at it. But there's a number like that. The good thing with us now is that over time, because we had in our products like inserts and various ways in which we'd get the customers to contact us on like Facebook or email and stuff, over time we've built up that list of people which we kind of communicate with, and when we're ready to launch a product, we'll typically launch it at a lower price so we can go out to that audience and say, look, we're launching this product, we're going to sell it at $100, but for the first few days we're going to start at 50 or 60, so we can kind of drive people that way. And again, it's in Amazon's eyes, it looks a lot more legitimate because it's people that kind of love the brand, have already bought one of the products. Maybe like if it's a baby product, something that's for a newborn, and then we're launching something for a 6-month-old, it kind of looks natural as well.
We used to have this, I think we called it like super URL tool that let us condense. It almost made it through the URL look like someone had gone through that journey, like typed in the keyword and then sold it and bought it. Sorry. Do you know, do those things still work, or is it again a case of like people don't do it because Amazon probably know?
Yeah, I mean, people definitely still do it, and Amazon 100% will know, I'm sure. But they've never seemed to shut it down. So those things do work. Like I think we did use that initially, to be fair, some of the super URLs, like when we were on like page 10 or page 100, just so people could find the product. But I think a much better strategy is to do like keyboard and mouse combo and then the brand name at the end of that, so that you've then, because it's a very specific search, your product will show up in that. But Amazon at the same time will also give you the ranking juice for that keyboard and mouse combo keyword.
Oh, that's
so
really...
Yeah, it's a good strategy, and you can use that for the first few until you get onto page 1 naturally, and then you kind of drop the brand name from it.
Oh wow, that's good. I haven't actually well, I don't speak to too many people these days about their strategies. Too busy doing their VAT returns. Yeah, that's quite a cool one. Do you think it's possible for people to still, if they wanted to get started now, to make a successful business in 2020 or 2021 on Amazon? Oh
yeah, 100%. Yeah, definitely.
Do you? Yeah. Sorry to cut you off, but do you sell on anywhere other than Amazon? Or...
No, so at the moment we only sell on Amazon.com in the US, and this is what we're looking to expand onto the other Amazon international channels, because one of the fantastic things over the last few months is that Amazon are now sharing reviews between international marketplaces. So if you've got 800 reviews on Amazon.com and you launch the product on .co.uk, you're going to launch with 800 reviews. So you're going to very quickly become one of the best sellers on .co.uk. And you can do that in Germany, Spain, Italy, France. So that was a real game changer for people on Amazon, I think, to be able to expand internationally. And it's literally, it's not far. You obviously need to do the translations of the listings, but it's kind of a click of a button to open that up. And then obviously shipping stock into those countries. But it's a very, very quick win now. Very, very quick win, rather. And yeah, that's something we're looking at towards the end of this year and the start of next year.
So you've only just recently started doing that, haven't you? Like expanding marketplaces. And I actually like that because a lot of our clients, because it's so easy, a lot of people do it really early on. Like they have one product that starts doing well. And then, like, kind of in my opinion, they spread themselves so thin because before that product's even finished, like it's not until it's rank one, page one, rank one, I feel like it's not complete, or at least top 3. And then they might be like rank 10, but then they spread themselves. And I feel like you've done it quite well. You've focused, you've kind of done well in that one marketplace. And now when you're going to go across into the others, hopefully it should pay some dividends in that way. Was there a reason that you held back?
I think just cash flow, really, mainly because, as we've said, it takes so much cash, particularly because we've grown so aggressively. Like every order is bigger than the last one, and it just churns through the money. Like Amazon pay us every 2 weeks, and up until like the last few months, it would literally Amazon would pay us. It would like supplier invoices from my bank, and there's like $800 left in the account or something like that. And then till the next 2 weeks, then it'd be bang, and then all straight down again. So we just didn't have the cash to do it. And now that we're kind of in a stronger position, cash flow wise, we can do that. But I think it's true, the point you said, like as much as it is very easy to turn all this on, it is just like focus and time and admin and VAT, and it's not easy. So I think it is right, like get it dialed in one marketplace, ideally like 5 to 10 products established, and then start to look at expanding, because we're also looking at off Amazon.
I was just about to ask that. Are you looking at Shopify or another?
Yeah. So I'm very conscious that we're solely reliant on Amazon, and like there's a lot of horror stories out there, particularly if you go in the Facebook groups where Amazon flick a switch and the business is gone for like a month or 2 months, and you've got to appeal it. And so yeah, definitely diversifying something that's on the radar. Our own Shopify store, we're in the process of setting that up. We've actually had a few sales through that. And then things like Walmart.com, Target.com, there's some other like baby specific marketplaces in the US. And then ideally longer term into retail. Obviously that's kind of on its knees right now, but I think we've got at least a couple of products that could work well there. So that's the plan.
Is your plan still to sell the business? I know in the past you were very clear from the off that you're like 2 years or 3 years time, you're not going to see me anymore. That's it. I'm gone. Yeah.
We've actually made quite a lot of progress on that front in the last couple of months, really. And we did list it for sale in July, and we got quite a lot of interest. We ended up, I think I spoke with 9 different potential buyers, and we ended up with 3 offers following that. I was keen, because I can see us on this upward trend, and because like there's a click of the button and expand internationally, like I want to be part of that growth still. So I'm kind of pushing for retaining some equity, but at the same time we've built this into something that's really quite significant, and like we have a lot of debt as a result of doing that. As I said, we've not really been taking money out of the business, so I kind of want the payday as well to clear down the debt and like not to have to worry about money, but then still retain some equity so we can be part of the future growth. So kind of negotiating a little bit. It's completely new to me, obviously, as I've never sold a business before, so I do feel like I'm kind of making it up a bit as I go, but hopefully in the next couple of weeks we can get something finalised and then go through the due diligence process. So that's quite exciting.
Yeah, it's really exciting. Do you mind, Sam, what sort of multiple? We won't ask you for the figure so that people don't come there.
Yeah, in case I owe anyone money. Yeah, so the broker that we've used, and so I spoke with quite a lot of brokers, and the kind of party line or the standard on Amazon is that you're going to get anywhere between 2.5 and maybe 3 or 3.5 times your annual profits. But there was one broker we spoke to, Website Closers they're called, and they were much more bullish. They were like, well, yeah, that is the kind of standard, but we think all the other brokers are a bit lazy. We always push for 4x. And because your brand's in this kind of rapid growth, we don't want to value it based on the trailing 12 months. We want to value it based on the trailing 6 months and a forward-looking 6-month view. So that's why I've came to market so quickly, because that's a massive difference from basing it on the trailing 12 months. So we went to market, and I don't know the exact figures, Joe, I'd need to check, but it was something crazy. Like if we took the trailing 12 months position, it was like an 8 or 9x multiple on that position, and then it was like a 4.5x of the like trailing 6 forward-looking 6-month view. And the offers are at that level, to be honest.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, no, they've really backed up what they said, to be fair. The thing that I'm finding quite difficult, and I don't know if we want to go into the detail, but like if I compare it to like selling a house, for example, it's kind of the amount of the offers the key thing. You might look at the buyer and whether they've got a house to sell, or there's a chain or whatever. But with this, it's a lot more complex. There's obviously retained equity, there's cash at closing, there's promissory payments, I think they call it, where it's like you'll get paid in a year or you get paid in 3 years. Yeah. And then there's earn-outs where it's based on future performance of the business. So there's all these different component parts of the offer, and it makes comparing one offer to the other quite difficult, you know?
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people try to structure it so that they're almost paying you out of the future earnings rather than in a lump sum up front. And then, of course, you're sitting there thinking, can I trust these people? Because are they in the UK, these buyers, or are they in the US?
No, all US. Everyone we spoke to was US.
Yeah, there's something about it, isn't? Well, like we kind of went through the process a bit, but never ended up selling it just because it was just too much of a headache in the end, to be honest. And yeah, I won't go into it now, but yeah, it was just that trust of, well, there's a completely different court system. I don't know what recourse there is if they don't pay me in a year's time, or if the business fails because of poor management. Like you hand over the keys to this lovely business and then they ruin it, or they get their Amazon account banned by doing something stupid. Like what recourse have I got to still get my money back?
Exactly, yeah. And I've got good like professional advisors, lawyers and stuff advising me on it to make sure our interests are protected, but it's never risk-free, you know. And exactly what you said, look, when we started diving into the detail of some of the offers, it was like payments 2 and payments 3 would be paid either by loading debt onto the company, which the fact we were still retaining a 30% equity stake in that company didn't sit well with me, because I'm like, well, you're basically borrowing to pay me back, but I own 30% of the debt, you know, or based on future earnings, but there's no guarantee with that. And then there's the cash flow conundrum as well. Like if you pull out significant amounts of money, the business is going to kind of start going down. So yes, it's exciting. Like I learned a lot over the last few weeks, and I think like as we kind of go in further into the negotiations or potentially with new buyers, I'll know the right questions to ask, you know?
Yeah. We'll have
stuff.
to do a follow-up episode, I think, when you do eventually sell it, to find out what the actual whole process was, or if you do.
Sounds good.
And so I'm aware that I kind of roped you in. I said about half an hour, and now it's been well over an hour. So I'll just, one question that I do think is useful for potential people. Have you ever had a product launch and it failed?
Yeah, we did. We had one product, and it was quite early on, and basically there was a competitor doing really well, and I thought by launching the same product but adding in something else, like bundling it with something else, that would be enough to draw people away. But that competitor at the time had thousands of reviews, and it just didn't work as I expected. Even though our product the quality was better, it had an extra component to it, and we were selling at a cheaper price, it just didn't work. And I think it's because they were kind of grandfathered in with the ranking and the reviews and stuff, and everybody was choosing them. But yeah, I think on that, it's just obviously speak with a lot of kind of higher end Amazon sellers now, and most of them are happy with a kind of 70-80% hit rate. They know that even if they do the research and differentiate the product, pick the right product, launch it with the appropriate strategies, that some just fail on Amazon, and that's just the nature of it, and you can never predict it exactly. So yeah, we've been quite fortunate. We've only had one that's really failed for us so far, but it's part of the game, I guess.
Cool. Well, I will call it there because I don't want to take up too much more of your time. And there's also something that I wanted to pick your brain on afterwards. So is there any sort of imparting wisdom or knowledge you'd like to pass on to the world?
Yeah, I don't know if I've got anything specific. I feel that we've covered a lot, but like if it's someone new, I think the key things for me are pick the right training and like immerse yourself in it, like really commit to it, dedicate time like every day, even if it's just 15 minutes a day, just get into that rhythm and routine of doing it every day, and then do the research, but pick the product and launch it, and accept that some are going to fail, but you're going to learn a lot. You're going to come back with most of your money, even in that kind of failure scenario. And I think that's just the best advice. It's just a case of showing up,
Brilliant. All right then. Well, Paul, thank you so much for your time. I do appreciate it. And we'll speak soon.
Cool. Thanks, Joe.
Well, that's the end of the interview. I hope you found my interview with Paul interesting and it gave you some insights into private label businesses. If you've got any questions about private label or anything else like that, leave a comment below. If you enjoyed that, I'd like to let you know that I've got a number of other interviews lined up and planned in this series. We speak with dropshippers, private label sellers like Paul, and also online arbitrage experts. Make sure you don't miss out, so click or tap like and subscribe so that you don't miss out on any of the great content that we've got planned. Are you thinking of starting a private label business, or are you in the process of it? If you are, why haven't you got started yet? I'd love to hear about it in the comments below. Let me know why you've not got started. What's the biggest stumbling block for you in getting started in creating your private label business? And that's it. I look forward to seeing you in the next episode of E-Commerce Joe.